So what is intermittent fasting? Well, intermittent fasting is basically a method of eating where you compress the amount of time during your day when you actually eat. So for example, in today's society, you might wake up at 7 a.m., have breakfast at 8 a.m., have lunch at noon, and have dinner at, say, 6 p.m. With intermittent fasting, you might skip breakfast. You might just do an eating window from noon to 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. I should say. But the point is all the same. You're essentially compressing when you consume food and when you don't. Now there's a few nuances. Some people say coffee doesn't count or tea doesn't count. For most people, as long as you're not spiking insulin, eating some sort of carbohydrate or sugar, you're probably okay. Even the bulletproof train of thought will talk about eating bulletproof coffee and how that still kind of mimics and supports the intermittent fast, even though you're putting in butter and you're actually consuming calories. But the overall idea here is fasting can have powerful benefits, and ancestrally, we probably were most optimized when we weren't eating all the time. Our bodies are designed to do certain things and have certain processes that turn on after we've stopped feeding. The other thing I'll mention about intermittent fasting is, to me, it's one of the most powerful ways with fasting in general to sort of train your willpower, to train your unconscious mind, to limit short-term pleasure and remove that sort of dopamine receptor chronic hitting of it through snacking. Snacking to me is one of the most low value, low level things you can do in general as far as reinforcing your willpower, reinforcing your biology. It's also extremely unhealthy, generally speaking. So fasting can be a powerful way to do that, and intermittent fasting is a very adaptable way that a lot of people can benefit. When I think about fasting and specifically intermittent fasting, I think of three different groups of people that can really benefit from this. The first type of person would be the professional. If you're a working professional, you're super busy, you don't have a lot of downtime to sit down and have meals throughout the day, and you just want to sort of optimize your day for the maximum amount of throughput, then intermittent fasting can be great. You don't have to worry about stopping to make a breakfast, to eat a breakfast, maybe skip dinner, and you don't even have to worry about getting a meal in the evening, or you skip lunch. And you can do any of these things as a professional. It saves you time. The other kind of person, number two, would be someone who's in sort of the shredding, cutting season. So if you're someone who wants to get lean, I personally went and did 1 meal a day, which was like a 22-hour fast every single day for about 2 months back in kind of like the late spring, summertime, and I got super lean. I got about as lean as I've ever been. You could pretty much see every muscle in my body, and I probably had a 5% body fat at the time. Now, it's not always good if you're wanting to build strength and build muscle because your body needs calories, and it's really hard a lot of times if you just eat 1 meal a day, for example, to get those. So a lot of what we talk about in nutrition and the ancestral consistency is dependent on your goals, what you're trying to do. But in general, if you're trying to lean out, intermittent fasting can really help you because it's generally going to trigger a caloric restriction. It's going to be good for your hormones, for your kind of recovery, and it's going to allow you to just not feel too confined, but be able to eat when you want to and just tighten up things. Now, the last person would be the metabolically unhealthy person. In this case, intermittent fasting can be really powerful for them as well. And what it can do for them is it can help them reset their insulin levels, their markers for pre-diabetic stuff like blood glucose, hemoglobin A1C, elevated insulin, beta cell function, all these things that can kind of lead people down the path of metabolic dysfunction, fasted triglycerides. All of these things can be improved when you practice intermittent fasting. So there are a lot of benefits when it comes to intermittent fasting, and it can suit quite a different type of person and a different range of goals depending on what you're looking for. So I've got 2 more points about how we can do it and why we would do it exactly. I'm gonna touch base on those, but I wanted to mention a quick thing. There is some information and evidence out there supporting this idea that maybe fasting in chronic fashion or constantly fasting for longer periods of time may not be optimal. Now, there is this sort of quality of life to sort of longevity spectrum where we do see rats, for example, when they calorically restrict them and they have them fasting for longer periods of time, they live longer. But if we could actually hear what they're saying, they're probably going, God, this sucks. My life is terrible. And so with what I'm trying to kind of learn and how I'm trying to communicate my information, I'm looking for ways to always find that 80-20 of what's kind of the peak without, the minimal effective dose, if you will, to get you to the point where it's most optimal. With that in mind, I do think fasting can be powerful, maybe doing a 24-hour or 36-hour fast once every month or two, but I don't recommend doing it every single week or every day for most people. Now, this depends on your health, but if you're metabolically healthy, you have fairly consistent goals around building muscle, staying lean, but being kind of ancestrally fit, then I think fasting in general is probably more a once a month type thing and less a weekly thing. But intermittent fasting certainly could be something that you add to your tool chest. So while I was researching this, I looked at the points around what this does to our biology and why would we want to do it and what it does. And we kind of briefly touched on this earlier, but the main point is it's ancestrally consistent. Our ancestors did not walk around with mini fridges and coolers and processed jerkies. And yes, we made pemmican. Yes, we might have had some dehydrated meats from time to time, but certainly way back when, there were definitely periods of time where our biology was equipped and it benefited by not having food, and much more so than in today's society where we just have a constant bombardment of food that people can snack on and eat, like nuts and seeds and berries and all these sort of quote unquote superfoods, if you will. So it's not really that beneficial to be doing that, and fasting really helps us mimic this sort of element. It also helps with sleep. People who eat their last meal much further before going to bed tend to sleep much better and fall asleep easier and have deeper sleep. And so there's benefits there. But in terms of specific benefits that I found while researching, well, for one, it has shown to boost human growth hormone. HGH in and of itself is not great if it's too much, but certainly in terms of boosting levels, for most people, it's going to be beneficial, especially as you age, to have better levels of HGH. We talked about the metabolically unfit people and how this is probably a great thing for you. That again comes down to driving insulin sensitivity. When your body becomes more insulin sensitive versus insulin resistant, you're moving away from being diabetic, from pre-diabetic, and you're getting more metabolically healthy and fit. It's allowing you to balance your blood sugar, to reduce inflammation in your body, to just overall be more resilient and healthy. It's a big trigger for cellular repair. When you're not eating food, you go through a process called autophagy after a period of time, and that's where basically cells sort of like eat the cyanescent dying and dead cells and clear them out. So this process of autophagy can really be valuable to kind of clear out potentially cancerous cells or cells that just aren't functioning properly, and makes you just more efficient as a body metabolically. Another thing it does is activates and promotes certain longevity genes like FOXO3, and these genes are consistently known to promote longevity and increase lifespan. So it has a lot of great benefits, and it's quite intriguing to do it. So how do you do it? This is really simple. And it kind of blows my mind. There's so many videos out there that are explaining how to do intermittent fasting, but all you have to do is usually just skip a meal. Instead of eating 3 meals a day, just go down to 2. For me, I do a breakfast that's kind of mid-morning, late morning, between 9 and 10, and I do a dinner that's usually earlier in the evening, around 5 or 6. And so I have about an hour window at my breakfast, an hour window at my dinner where I am feeding, but the rest of my day, I do not feed. I do not drink coffee personally. I think that's okay if it's black, but I would say if you're starting to take in calories, that's where you cross the line. But going back to how to do it, it's really simple. For a lot of people, and the way I first started intermittent fasting when I got introduced to it, was you just get rid of breakfast or you just get rid of dinner. All of a sudden, you're now eating from, say, 8 a.m. to noon. You've got 4 or 5 hours where you're eating food, and then the other 20 or 18 hours of the day, you are not eating. And so you have that intermittent fast that's going on. And that's really all it comes down to. So don't worry, you're not gonna die. You do not have to worry about eating food every single mealtime. You definitely won't get low energy or suffer or cause some sort of real bad damage to your body. Of course, if you're used to constantly spiking your blood sugar, snacking on foods, it's going to be a habitual thing as well as an emotional thing, and probably physiological. You're going to have some adjustments that you have to go through. So intermittent fasting is beneficial, but at the same time, you also do have some habitual things you have to curb. Personally, I think probably for most people watching this, the best way to do it, try to whack out breakfast or limit that, and then just go to lunch and then do dinner, because Lunch can often be a sort of break in the day when you're working, and it can help you just kind of take a bit of a rest. And then dinner, and it's also a reward, right? You're working hard all day. It's one of those simple life pleasures to be able to eat something that's yummy in the middle of the day. And then dinner is socially a very difficult one to usually skip. And so I find that for most people, just to make it simple and make it adjustable, just going from no breakfast, which oftentimes is individualized and less of a social thing, to dinner and lunch and dinner is going to be the most optimal way to sort of adapt and add in intermittent fasting. Of course, you could do one meal a day. Just keep in mind, if your goals are to be anabolic, meaning growing and building muscle and gaining strength and weight, it may not be conducive to that. When I did that, my testosterone went down, it downregulated. My overall energy was decent, but I did find that I lost weight. I just was the lightest I'd ever been. I lost about 10 pounds from where I am today. And so it can be not the optimal. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this. If you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. There is a link in this video to my website with our upcoming book launch that's coming this month. If you haven't signed up, go sign up for that newsletter. We're gonna communicate tips directly out of the book about how to do the carnivore diet. I've got a lot of really unique information in there, and you can get the foolproof carnivore diet roadmap when you sign up for that as well, and you put your email in. We're gonna give you that PDF. It'll walk you through exactly how to do the carnivore diet, and it gives you just a great guide of things that you can do to really optimize the diet and make sure you're actually using it. So as always, let's get healthy, and thanks for watching.